you're thrilled that this could actually happen in America and happen in this small town. And so McFarland represents that small town, and Jim White represents the difference an individual can make that can go into a small community and suddenly have an impact that lasts forever and becomes generational. This is a man who probably could have coached anything and somehow ended up with the very unglamorous sport of cross country. But he sensed in these young guys this kind of natural endurance. He had to educate himself about what it was, and a little school, the little engine that could, became McFarland. And they didn't have all the trappings of success, didn't have the gym with the equipment, didn't have the shoes with the stripes, didn't have the shoes. And somehow the greatest thing about athletics is that playing field can get leveled. Doesn't matter what economic strata you come from. Can you run? Can you play? Can you compete? And these 7 boys on their journey into manhood, compete and set a standard in that town that's been followed by the rest of that community. Young people growing up want to be a part of the McFarland cross-country team. I lived in the Central Valley. I lived in a place called Visalia, and it was, I've told people before, it was my favorite year in high school, my junior year. I just loved the flatlands of the Central Valley, the fields. I found myself in them constantly, hunting and fishing in the mountains. So I loved the Central Valley. But McFarland, is a lot of migrant farm workers, that had to make a living, on the road, and suddenly this town just kind of grew up. And I can't speak to the absolute culture of it because you have to kind of be inside that. But I think our movie has attempted to portray that culture, and I think the people of McFarland have been very happy with it. When I go into McFarland, things don't work right away. I clash with the football coach. I lose that job just as quickly as I lost the other one. And suddenly I'm just a teacher, and really what I want to be is a coach. And my wife reminds me that I am a coach. I'm teaching 3 classes in PE, but anybody in the sporting world knows that that's not being a coach. That's being an athletic babysitter. It's when you coach a team, when you have the guys or young women who are all working towards, a goal of to have a winning season, to have a winning team. That's, he's a teacher, and he's able to, teach athletically, and maybe a sport he couldn't even do himself, but he has an internal understanding of what it takes to motivate kids to get up and run when they're already getting up and going to work in the fields with their families. Well, I tell you, sometimes you run into teenagers, and they're not all teenagers, some of them are in their 20s, but sometimes, they're slow to get off the couch. Hey, sometimes they're a little intimidated, or you interpret that as being lazy. They don't get up or whatever. These guys, from the moment I met them, had smiles on their face. They came up to me. They're very aware of my movies that I've made, and they made me feel great. And I feel like, I've tried to look out for them during the course of this movie. Just the notion of cross country means you're getting off the track. You're not dealing with a 360. You're dealing with trails that go left and right and up and down, and maybe across little streams of water. I mean, that's a more romantic view of it. But by definition, you're running in a more free way and for a longer distance than your average sprint. But I think that was important to Nikki to open this world up, to the bus going to these you just can't underestimate the experiences that the running gave these young men, which is, it took them, a little bit farther than Bakersfield. Suddenly they were finding themselves in different communities, And just like Jim learned from watching other coaches, the minute you take kids out of their environment, they have that ability to look out the window and go, that's how somebody does it. That's how somebody else lives. That's possible for me. And I think the notion of education is also letting people know what's possible. And so the locations, are always a part of movie making, and I think that Nikki has made them a part of her movie, McFarland here.